everything I've learned in 1,000 hours of hearing. It is extremely underrated in the finals, and I don't see many people talking about it. You should focus on what sounds you are hearing, what they mean, and where they are coming from. Then, based on this information, you can react accordingly. The finals does pretty good audio, and you can essentially just have wall hacks on people, so make sure you are playing with headphones like my teammate here.
Munitions, meet turret!
Here's just a quick example of me using sound to perform a team wipe.
How about they all
Get ready
up?
for teleportation!
They're not.
Spawns. You need to learn spawns in this game. For every cash out, there are usually 2 places that the enemy can spawn at. And if you want to get good, you need to memorize all of the locations for every single cash out. This seems like at first this is going to seem like impossible, but after you play the game enough and play, World Tour or ranked enough, it becomes just second nature. A quick tip I can offer is to look on either side of your cash out. Typically, enemies do not spawn in the middle of the map, they'll just spawn on either side of your cash out, so you only really have 2 places to look whenever you cap a cash out. And if you do this, and you know where spawns are, then you can just hold them at spawn, and it's a really good strategy that you have to take advantage of. If you can learn spawns, it takes so much pressure off of you and your team, because you don't have to look for the enemy while you're at your cash out, in different floors, just like, oh, where are they? Like, you know exactly where they are from when the fight starts to when it finishes. And if you don't know, there is a sound cue that you should learn when player teams spawn in. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Moving on to a tip that I highly recommend. Way too many of my hours in this game was me just not understanding and looking into macro play. And if I learned it sooner, I would have been able to improve way faster. I think of microplay as your own ability to play your class, weapon, specializations, gadgets, etc. And then macro is essentially using your microplay and then coordinating with your team to, position, rotate, and stuff like that. There's a guide on macro play that I highly recommend by an old light player named Piggy that has since left the game. But he goes super deep into macro play, and there's a lot of really good tips that definitely recommend. It's completely changed the way that I played the game. It is a little bit outdated, but it gives you a huge starter and just sort of a lot of basic stuff that you have to know if you want to get better. I'll leave it in this video's description if you want to check it out. I highly recommend it. Alright, so this next tip is extremely important and led to a huge improvement for me personally. One thing that I definitely undervalued while clocking in a ton of time in the finals was just pure aiming ability. Good aim can make you feel like you're ahead of everyone else in the entire lobby, and you can just outgun everyone. I personally recommend going to the firing range for a few minutes just before hopping on, just to get your aim warmed up. I'll do some quick recoil practice as well before I start playing. But I would say the best thing that has helped my aim over the past around 7 months has definitely been Kovacs Aim Trainer. Whenever I would watch pro players play the game, I noticed that they could also they could always track people taking pads super easily. They'd be falling out of the sky and they just hit every single bullet. And whenever I attempted to do that, I realized that I couldn't do it. So I took this as a sign to start aim training, and just loaded up the finals playlist on Kovacs, grinded out a few scenarios, specifically pad track, under track, high ground track, and zip track, so just 4. And just in these 4, I saw insane improvement. I started out tracking people right the pad track scenario, which is where it mimics you shooting at someone taking a pad. And before in the finals, I just could not hit a shot on them. So I started this scenario in Kovacs with about 9% accuracy, and fast forward a few months later, and now I'm at 50% accuracy. So that's 5 times as good, and that's just doing it for 10-15 minutes before I hop on the game. And this doesn't just go for pad track either. All of these different scenarios I've improved at least 5 to 6 times, if not more. better than when I started. So I highly recommend it. I've been able to see it in game like so much, and my aim definitely would not be where it is now if I hadn't done Kovacs, and it's still definitely improving. You know, my aim's ass, but it's a lot better than when I started. So yeah, I highly recommend doing Kovacs. I did Kovacs for just about 15 minutes before I hopped in the finals each time, and I started to notice like insane like translation into the game within like 2 weeks of playing it like consistently. Again, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes before I hopped on. I started to really notice it in game. I'd say maybe around like a month, and it was just insane. Like, it just felt surreal. Like, it sounds really cringe, but it felt like I had like an inhuman ability to just track people falling. And I don't know what to say. Like, I highly recommend this. If you can't track people like falling from pads, you know, or taking zip lines, take that as your sign to start aim training. One thing that you definitely got to remember is that you'll never get good aim unless you're consistent. Like, you need to be consistent if you want to be able to just improve, right? So when I say consistency, I don't just mean like you're playing the game regularly. I also mean like how you play the game. So yes, you definitely want to make sure you're playing the game regularly if you want to improve. But if you're trying to really make the most out of every time you play, I would keep your play sessions similar and, you know, start them similarly. So what do I mean by this? So I mean, basically, this could be as simple as going into the practice range for a few minutes before you warm up, to literally doing like stretches before you warm up, to, you know, Kovacs again, right? It's going to vary person to person. Some people are insane at just hopping on the game and just destroying people, but if you feel like you are inconsistent and sometimes you hop on, you do really well, and then the next day you hop on and you just do horribly, you should definitely sort of invest in a warm-up. Because of this, I would sort of personalize your warm-up, you know, like I've definitely personalized mine a lot. So I just, you know, to give you an example, I'll go into Kovacs for about 10 to 15 minutes before hopping on the finals. Then I'll hop into the practice range for about, you know, 5 to 10 minutes in the finals, just to get, you know, just to get a feel for sort of the game's physics, practice some recoil control, stuff like that. Then I'll load up a World Tour match, and then after I finish the World Tour, I'll hop into Ranked. And I've noticed that I've just been able to be incredibly consistent, just having, you know, just spending 10, you know, 20 minutes just before hopping on the game, just practicing. Alright, moving on. Watching good players play the game. So I think almost everyone has heard this tip, which is just, you know, watch people who are better than you. And a lot of people just queue up a video of Carnifex going like 56-5 in a ranked match and just annihilating everyone in sight. And then they expect, you know, to just be a god from that. And I think in order to actually get the most from watching like pros play, I recommend that you actually watch like scrims or tourneys of them playing, because that's when they're going to be at their best, right? And you're not just like AI watching them just, you know, going brain dead, right? You're really like picking up on what they're doing, right? Like you're looking at their positioning, you know, how their team coordinates. Basically just you're observing everything that they're doing, just how they're even, you know, talking to each other, right? This is called observational learning, and it's one of the ways that humans learn like extremely well. So I highly recommend you make use of this. It's like quite literally just broken. Like you can be a complete noob at a game and immediately, you know, you've probably heard this from a lot of, I think Apo maybe said it in a recent video where he was like, yeah, if I'm learning a new game, just look up some gameplay, see, you know, analyze how they play the game. And I think that's an insane, you know, strategy, right? It works really, really well. Alright, last but not least, finding a team to play with is something that a lot of people struggle with, I think. And you really need one if you want to have a higher chance of, you know, being able to hit Ruby. So I'd say that most people just hop into the finals Discord server and find a team to play with that way. And that's an alright method, and by no means horrible, but for me personally, like I prefer a different method, and I don't really hear anyone talk about it. But what you essentially do is you just queue up solo queue ranked. That's all you do. And here you'll find people who run ranked with their duo, or they're just completely alone, and they're, also looking for people to play with. The second reason I recommend this is because solo ranked players are insane. Like, no joke. Like, these people are like maybe mentally insane, but like their mental is godly. Like, these people can just go at ranked, like solo queue ranked for like hours on end and just be completely fine. I have a ton of friends that just solo queue ranked, and they only solo queue ranked. Like, they probably have 1 million friends, and some of them just solo queue ranked. And I watch these people go from like 42K down to like 33 in like a few days. I mean, it is just like these people's mentals is just built different. So I highly recommend going into solo queue ranked and just finding people to play with. They're also looking for people to play with. So just, do your best, hop in a VC, hop in a voice chat, say hello and play well. I would say that whenever I do this, I have insanely good, teammates and meet some really dope people to hang out with. And, it's super easy. You just queue up the ranked game, play a few rounds, and then when it ends, just say, you could even type it, you want to run it back, guys, and boom, there you go. Easy way to find like hella good teammates. This trick has been, extremely consistent for me. I've found most of my friends using this method, and you can find people in World Tour and friend them to run ranked with, but I don't think they're even gonna compare to the solo queue ranked gamers. The last thing that I want to say is L is not for lose, it's for learn, and W is not for win, it's also for learn. The W is just like silent. And always strive for improvement, and you will notice a difference in your skill. Like, you will get better if you try and improve. So yeah, just use the tips that I explained in this video, and I hope you guys can climb. Thanks for watching.